Right then, the January window is around the corner, and while we're all focusing on the players that could come in and strengthen Manchester United, I think there's probably going to be a lot of players who also could leave Manchester United as well, including, though in the last few days there's been some strong emergence that there's a good chance that Harry Maguire could find himself on the exit. So let's have a look at some of the players that could leave Manchester United then. So, Donny Van De Beek. I don't get it. From a technical point of view, the kid had everything. He just didn't do it. He was an exciting player coming out of Ajax under Ten Hag. He got 41 goals, 34 assists in 175 games, all comps. Almost a goal contribution every other game. Ridiculous, really. And when you look at the player that turns out for Manchester United, it's such a far cry from that sort of exciting, technical, dangerous player. He was exciting, he was energetic, he was arriving late in the box, he caused problems for opposition. I don't know what happened. But I think it's safe to say things have not worked out for him at Manchester United. He failed to nail himself a place in Solskjaer's team. Rangnick never really messed with him. And even being behind Fred and McTominay, a loan move was given, and he couldn't even get himself into the Everton squad in the end. In a year they were almost relegated. So it's safe to say, I think the best thing for Donny would be a move back to Holland to see if he can get it going again. But Ten Hag is here. This is the guy that made Donny Van De Beek, and even Ten Hag isn't having him. So it's bad. Since 2020, Donny's only played 57 times for Manchester United, and in that time he's only managed 2 goals, 2 assists. In those 57 appearances, he's only played 2,052 minutes. If he'd have played every minute of every game, he'd have played 5,130. So while it isn't a lot of time, one thing that I did notice with Donny is if he did start a game, he seemed to run out of steam about the 60-minute mark. He has been given chances, but for me, he's just quite simply not taken them. And being on 120 grand a week, I think United will think it's time to move Donny on and invest in a more impactful player. Number 2, Wan-Bissaka. So Wan-Bissaka was a player with a lot of potential when we signed him from Palace. I think we overpaid. There was an English tax. There was the back of one great season that he just had at Palace. We massively overpaid. Hell of a lot of money for a right back, and ultimately it was probably not justified. He was, at least in some aspects, defensively top class when he joined United, and he's produced some of the best 1v1 defending that I think it's possible to see. The timing of his slide tackles is absolutely ridiculous. Famously pocketed a lot of really good players 1v1 when played as a fullback. Mbappe, Sterling, Salah. But I think there's an element where all he's got is a slide tackle. He's poor in possession, he's poor progressing the ball. Tackling isn't the only defensive attribute. You need positioning, you need awareness, you need to be able to track runners, and he struggles with those sorts of things. He looks awkward on the ball. He isn't great in the air. A lot of people think he might be suited to playing a centre-half, which is a catastrophic misunderstanding of what a centre-half actually does. Centre-halves don't make tackles. If your centre-half's sliding in to make tackles, you fucked up a long time ago. Ten Hag needs ball players at full-back, and Wan-Bissaka isn't that. Dalot, since the new manager arrival, has really made the right-back spot his own. And it seems like it's going to have to take a big signing to take Dalot out of it. And I can't see Wan-Bissaka improving anywhere near enough to be able to do that. I think he's going to be gone soon. United are going to take a massive loss on the transfer fee, but he ain't going to stick around at United. I think he'll be gone. I think he'll be one of the ones gone come January. Phil Jones. I can't believe the potential is another window could come and go, and Phil Jones is still technically a Manchester United player. Now, he's not got a squad number and he's been moved out of the first team changing room. And from what I can hear, he's not even training that regularly at the club. But he was a good player. In his first year at United, back in 2012, he was versatile. He could defend, he could dribble, he could play out from the back, he could play midfield and defence. Sir Alex Ferguson compared him to Duncan Edwards. And unfortunately, following the exit of Sir Alex Ferguson, Phil Jones became a bit of a meme. Partially because of the faces he pulled when playing football, which is not a bad thing. It's a little bit of fun. And he struggled with injuries throughout his entire career. And for a man that's been here for 10 years, he's only made 229 appearances. A lack of playing fitness, lack of confidence, and Jones never reached the potential that he could have had. He made one appearance last season in a 1-0 home loss to Wolves. And now it's odd because, for whatever reason, he has not decided to leave United, despite not playing. He came close to joining Bordeaux apparently last summer, but decided to stay at United for whatever reason. There was rumours of him going to the MLS with Rooney. Didn't do that for whatever reason. I'd be amazed if he gets through this window, but I also think it's a possibility. Now, the good news is his contract expires in the summer. So come the summer, he will be gone no matter what. I think there's half a chance he goes in January if he's got any career or any desire to salvage a career left whatsoever. Jadon Sancho. Now, we know Jadon's working mentally and physically to try and get back in Holland, away from the rest of the squad. Ten Hag addressed the news with the following: we got a drop in quality level, and sometimes you don't know why or what is causing it. What we are doing now is to try and get him back there. It's a combination of physically and mentally. Now, I'm sure United will try and get him back there. Although Sancho was an Ollie signing, he was a player that United worked on signing and were rumoured to be signing for a good couple of seasons. And we all know what Sancho can do. And we all remember the goal against Liverpool earlier this season, as well as what he did in the Bundesliga. But there has been a huge drop-off in form since arriving in England. I know the Premier League is more difficult than the Bundesliga, yet Sancho has supposedly said he wants to leave the club. He only scored 8 times and assisted 4 times for United in 52 games, which is a huge drop-off from the 50 goals and 64 assists he got in 137 games at Dortmund. And with United having Rashford, Anthony, Garnacho, and whatever comes in January with alternative wide players, Sancho could be closer to an exit than we think. He's also on big, big money. And if the club is trying to trim the fat when it comes to wages, that might be one that they try to cash in on. Harry Maguire. Maguire's an interesting one. Ten Hag handled dropping him very, very well. I mean, it was obvious Lisandro Martinez and Varane were better than him, but Varane's injury proneness left the door open a little bit. Maguire started off really well, as did Wan-Bissaka at United when United were a counter-attacking team, but you ask both of them to play on the halfway line and dominate the ball, and it ain't their bag. Maguire was one of a handful of players who were in absolutely awful form. Some of the abuse he received went way too far, as it always does, yet last season really showed the flaws and limitations to his game. After we've signed Martinez, Maguire was quickly benched, and Varane and Martinez's partnership has been the best we've seen at the club since Rio and Vidic. Maguire really only features this season when Varane is injured, or what's probably an inevitable Lisandro Martinez suspension. But it's interesting that I think most would agree, for England, he was decent. And for the second major tournament in a row, somehow, at least on some people's assumptions, that he's earned himself a spot in team of the tournament. I'm certain that there genuinely would be teams that would sign Harry Maguire, and there were rumours that Chelsea wanted him in the summer, and there's rumours emerged more recently that there's teams potentially in for him come January. Maguire, as he's shown against West Ham, when your team is defending, last-ditch defending, and he's defending headers into the box, he can do that. He's an aerial threat. But Ten Hag's United need ball-playing defenders that can play and defend on the halfway line. And that's not his strong point. Ten Hag might want to free up not just the funds, but also the sort of, is he the captain, is he not the captain sort of situation, because that could become complicated for him. Your captain being, at best, third choice centre-half. And that's just the main ones. I think Brandon Williams could find himself on the exit. I think Ahmad, there's a lot going on with that. But you guys let me know in the comments, which of those do you think will go, and which of those do you think might be held on a little bit? I'll see you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.